thank you for your service, Mr. Vogt, and your willingness to come back. Thank you also to your family. As you know, in the closing days of the last session, the United States Congress, by overwhelming majorities, approved disaster relief funding going to the Department of Agriculture, as well as FEMA, for disaster relief all around the country. Will you commit to releasing those funds promptly and fully to the areas that depend on that disaster relief funding?
We will continue to release the money that's appropriately been funded for these areas, as we always have with regard to the FEMA dollars.
So the answer is yes.
Yes, we will continue to do what we did in the first
You won't
term.
continue because you're not yet in office. You will release that money fully and promptly to the agencies that can provide that relief. For example, the $31 billion, I believe it is, for the Army Corps and the Agriculture Department, the $2.2 billion for the Small Business Administration, $29 billion for FEMA. These are specific amounts. How about the $3.8 billion left for security assistance to Ukraine? Will you release that money?
Again, Senator, I'm not going to get ahead of the policy process of the incoming administration, but when it comes to responding to the disasters, the president has always been someone that cares deeply about these areas and getting them.
I'm talking about the Ukraine funding, which I believe is essential. The Congress believed it's vital. It's been authorized and appropriated. Will you release that remaining $3.8 billion?
Again, Senator, I'm not going to get ahead of the president on a foreign policy issue of the magnitude of the situation with regard to Ukraine.
Let me ask you, do you believe the Impoundment Control Act is constitutional?
No, I don't believe it's constitutional. The president ran on that view. That's his view, and I agree with
Have you read Train versus New York? That's the United States Supreme Court saying it is constitutional. You're saying that you're going to just defy the courts, the Office of Legal Counsel, under both administrations, including then Attorney Rehnquist, afterward becoming Supreme Court Justice, wrote for the Office of Legal Counsel. You are simply going to take the law into your own hands.
I did not say that, nor did I imply that on behalf of the incoming administration. I said earlier to a question from Senator Peters that the incoming administration was going to take the president's view on this, as he stated in the campaign, work it through with the lawyers of the Department of Justice, some of whom are coming before Congress just today, if confirmed, and to put that through a policy process. And I can't prejudge that policy process, but I certainly can't announce the parameters of what it would produce.
I am astonished and aghast that someone in this responsible a position would, in effect, say that the president is above the law, and that the United States Supreme Court is entitled to their opinion, but mine should supersede it. It's just baffling that we are in this, I think, unprecedented moment in the history of this country. And I think our colleagues should be equally aghast, because this issue goes beyond Republican or Democrat. It's bigger than one administration or another. It's whether the law of the land should prevail, or maybe it's up for grabs, depending on what the president thinks. I think it is fundamental, and I hope you will reconsider this view. And I'm going to put it in a question for the record to give you an opportunity to recast your answer, which I think should be disqualifying for both sides of the aisle, frankly, because what goes around comes around. The next administration could be Democratic, could be independent, but the Supreme Court in Train versus New York said it's constitutional. That's been the clear consensus. So let me move on I'm the ranking member of the Veterans Affairs Committee. I'm concerned by your proposal that there should be a means test for who deserves Veterans Affairs disability compensation. For me, nothing's more important than caring for our veterans. I think that is true of many of us on both sides of the aisle. Do you believe that veterans should receive disability benefits only if they qualify under some kind of means test?
Senator, the President has been a firm supporter of veteran spending, of getting veterans everything that they need. That was always reflected in all of the budgets that the President sent to the Hill, and I fully expect—
I'm going to interrupt you with apologies because my time is running out. Do you believe there should be a means test for disability benefits going to veterans?
Again, I'm not going to speak to the—
So you're not going to answer that question, but you have in the past taken the position there should be a means test.
The President has always fully supported veteran spending and put forward everything that they need for that the Department of VA does, and I fully expect that to continue.
Do you believe that disability compensation benefits for veterans should be eliminated if any veteran has a disability rating below 30%?
Senator, I'm not here on behalf of what I think, but I'm here on behalf of the President.
That is the proposal from the Center for Renewing America, the organization that you founded. Do you continue to believe it?
It's a think tank that I currently am the president of. It is not the agenda of the president, of the incoming president of the United States. And so I'm here on behalf of being his nominee and doing his budgets.
Is that what he believes?
Again, you should judge him by the budgets that he sent forward to Congress. And I am here on behalf of the fiscal responsibility that he wants to restore, and I fully intend to do that if confirmed.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
You know, as I said previously, I'm sympathetic not only to the arguments that Senator Peters made, but Senator Blumenthal is making on power of the purse. The only thing I would caution with this is, as we debate this, so much of this is because Congress hasn't done a good job with clear parameters. So, for example, with the Ukraine money, every week or two you'll see a release of it. And there's a great deal of discretion given to the president on when it's released and how much is released. For example, in last fall, when we passed the Ukraine money, they decided to call some of it loans. And so they did. And then a month later, they forgave the loans. And I was like, wow, when are they even supposed to start paying on the loans? I discovered their first payment wasn't supposed to be made for 40 years. So that's disingenuous. You know, it's a loan, we're going to forgive it. When were they supposed to start paying? In 40 years. But there's a great deal of latitude. And part of this, and this is going to be as it moves forward, if we want to limit what the president does with moving money around, which I'm sympathetic to, we should have the power of the purse. We've got to write better legislation. Every piece of legislation that we put out has a presidential waiver for national security. And they always say, if you don't do that, you're crazy. What about in times of war? Well, no, they just use that for everything. You're going to find that there's going to be a bunch of issues that there's going to be emergencies declared on, but Congress let him. You know, so we do need to readdress this. And I am sympathetic to it. Senator Peters and I have a bill on emergency powers that I hope will get a vote, which says that basically presidential powers would expire in 30 days unless approved by us. Now, any presidential powers with either the current president or the next president go on forever unless we reject them with a 2/3 vote, an almost impossible bar. But there is, I think, a difficulty in the witness answering, will you spend all the Ukraine money, since I think it's complicated and they have all kinds of parameters for how much to spend, when, and there. We haven't made it that explicit. That's my only point. Did you want to comment?
I will just say briefly, Mr. Chairman, the reason why Congress writes laws with attempted precision, not always, but sometimes providing latitude, is to enable some flexibility in the executive branch releasing funds. That's a prerogative of Congress. But then the president has to obey what we say in releasing the money. And
I would just argue we made the windows too big.
My comment here goes to obeying the law that has been upheld repeatedly as constitutional, as opposed to saying, no, we don't need to obey it because we believe it's unconstitutional.
I think it's a valid debate and a good debate. Senator Kim.